Welcome to Barrel Engine. What do we have here? This is the cylinder head from a John Deere 8650 tractor, which is a 10.1 liter inline 6-cylinder diesel engine that puts out around 290 horsepower. Our pickup and delivery driver brought this in from one of our longtime customers that's a dealer. Their customer brought their tractor in after it overheated. It's blown a head gasket and the cooling system was getting pressurized. On top of that, this tractor has a lot of hours on it. So if the head checks out okay, we've been asked to rebuild the head with a complete valve job as well. Now some shops might have just replaced the gasket and sent it back into the field. But this shop knows the issue could be more serious. And even if the head checks out to be okay, their customer knows that given the hours on this tractor, it's smart to have it reconditioned while it's already out. That's where we come in. Our job is to inspect and test the head to find out if it's still good. And if everything checks out okay, we'll completely rebuild the head, resurface it, and get it back to our customer ready for installation. We've got our John Deere cylinder head project here. The guys in the shop have done a great job of getting it cleaned up and fully degreased. We've disassembled it. They've gone through and they've buffed this surface. That's really critical. We've got to make sure that all the gasket material, any corrosion, any rust, anything that would create a barrier from us seeing any cracks has got to be removed. It's a time-consuming process, but it's really necessary. So our first inspection here is going to be Magnafluxing. Now we do the order of inspections on these in the simplest to the most complex, because the sooner we can find a crack or an issue with this head, if there is one, the better. It saves our customer time, saves the customer money, and it's just a more efficient way to go about this. So we've done a visual inspection, can't see any cracks visually. Now it's time for the Magnafluxing. So Magnafluxing is a pretty straightforward process. This is the dry Magnafluxing. There is also a liquid Magnafluxing process. We'll show you maybe sometime in a different video. But this is basically a magnet, and it's going to create a magnetic field between the two poles of the magnet. This process only detects surface cracks, something that you can see because we're actually looking at the crack through this process. But what this magnet does is when I charge it, it creates a directional pull between the two. And in that area, we're able to pull in Magnafluxing powder, which is this fine powder here. And this powder is basically an iron powder that is going to get pulled into the crack. The best way I can explain it is that magnetic draw is going to pull everything in as close to it as possible and as down as far as possible. So a crack is going to be a lower area that it's going to pull that powder into the crack, and that is going to make it visible. So what we're going to do is we'll go through each cylinder, and what we're trying to find here are cracks that are going to create an issue between the passageways of coolant, oil, or fuel. So if we've got a crack that is going to be going from this cylinder to a water jacket, that obviously is going to be a problem. It's going to eat coolant. It's going to pressurize the coolant. There are a variety of problems. Same with fuel. We've got an issue between where the injector is injecting in that port and the combustion chamber. That can create a problem. So we're looking for cracks that we can see through the surface here. Magnetizing process is pretty straightforward. It's kind of a meticulous step by step, of magnetizing an area and checking it from multiple directions because, again, the magnet is creating a field between these two poles. It doesn't magnetize the whole head. It does to some degree, but not enough to pull this powder in effectively for me to see a crack. So we're going to start with this cylinder, and we'll work our way through. I'm going to have it do a time lapse here so you can see quickly what the process involves, and then we'll go back and take a look at each individual cylinder and what we might have found for cracks. So you can probably hear the magnet. I'm pulling this powder on it, and I'm looking for cracks. I'm going to change where it is back and forth as I go So I have an opportunity for that strong field between the two poles to be pulling on the area that I'm inspecting. All right, well, we've completed our Magnafluxing in this head, and unfortunately, I have a few cracks to show you. The first one we're going to step through is this crack that's right in front of my fingertip. It is a crack in between the intake and the exhaust ports. This crack may or may not fail this head. John Deere actually has a service bulletin stating that this type of crack, as long as it does not continue below the bottom of the valve seat counterbore, which the valve seat sits into, if it's not below that, it's not considered a failing crack. We believe that there's two reasons for this. If the crack's not below the counterbore, the valve seats themselves seal off the intake and exhaust ports from each other. And the second is that the material beneath the counterbore is significantly heavier, and that extra mass helps maintain the press fit that holds the valve seat in place. These seats are installed with roughly 5 to 6 thousandths of press fit. If that press fit is ever lost, the seat can loosen or even fall out. So the only sure way to determine whether this crack is acceptable is to remove the seat and see if the crack continues into the heavier structure of the head. We would also pressure test this head to make sure that this crack does not somehow reach a coolant passage. This is actually a very common crack, and it's often contained to the saddle area and never progresses far enough to cause any issues. That's likely why John Deere issued the service bulletin in the first place. If we find that the crack has turned and worked its way into the bottom of the counterbore, well, then this head fails. At that point, the crack is in the heavier section of the casting, is likely going to continue to grow, and will create major issues. Unfortunately, I don't need to worry about all of that because of this. These cracks are significantly more problematic. We still have a crack similar to the first one we just reviewed, and under normal circumstances, we do some additional testings to evaluate it, but we don't need to because of these cracks. We've got the intake port and the exhaust port. These cracks create a potential pathway for compression to leak into the injector port, which is a major issue. Also, I can clearly see the cracks extend well below the counterbore area and deep into the structure of the head. Cracks like these can cause the valve seat to lose its press fit and eventually fall out. And a crack this deep either has already reached a coolant passage or it soon will. Unfortunately, this cylinder head is not repairable. So what comes next? Unfortunately, we're going to have to contact our customer and let them know that these cracks have made this head junk and it needs to be replaced. Thankfully, this is a relatively common cylinder head, and we have cores for this head readily available. So we'll be able to rebuild one of those cores and still keep the cost of this significantly below what it'll cost the customer to get a new head. The silver lining in this situation is this shop's diligence in having the head thoroughly inspected rather than just bolting it on with a new head gasket almost assuredly saved the customer a whole lot of frustration. This would have created problems, and those problems could have even led to a catastrophic engine failure. If you like this content, please hit like and subscribe. That'll help our channel grow.